next. We definitely want to keep this thing rolling. Are we enjoying ourselves? It's always good to check in with everybody. This is just a wonderful moment for us all. It's just bringing up just a lot of different topics. People are just enjoying what's being said. So this is a really good look. Me and Jeff were just over there talking about, man, this is beautiful. This is a wonderful look. So we encourage us to keep happening, right? So we'll be here at the next one, right? Right?
Right.
All right. Okay. Next, we have a biochemistry major at University of Michigan with a focus on entering dental school, right? Pretty big. All right, sharp mind, outspoken, hard worker, powerful story. Let's make noise for Lena.
Hello everyone. My name is Lena, and this is my first time performing in front of so many people. So I'm a little bit nervous. Well, this is a poem that I wrote just about me being an immigrant and being an African woman. Yeah. People ask me questions that start with who, where, and what, and expect small talk. Well, you see, my intersections runs deep as the Nile River. It's like the blue and the white Nile rivers when they meet, magnificent, a wonder of the world. I am the Nile, a woman raised by a village. Melanin on my skin pays homage to my Nubian heritage. My tongue speaks the language of poetry, Sudani Arabi. Well, you see, my intersections are as deep as the sweetness of a date, picked by my ancestors from the palm tree, standing tall, resilient of the heat, by the blue and the white Nile rivers when they meet. I broke the sea in half coming to this country. I'm an immigrant, you see, strong by virtue, and the hijab I wear is a testimony of that. I am not represented by what you see on the news. I am Sudanese, I am Muslim, I am black, I am a woman, and I am dignified, and I matter. I'm not, you see. My intersections come together like the blue and the white Niles when they meet, mighty me. Thank you.
So lovely. Our next presenter is somebody who I was convinced for a major portion of his life was going to be a professional complainer about the lack of a playground equipment at Doyle Ryder Elementary School. But he seems to have gotten past that, and he's going to tell you a story tonight. My son, Malcolm Bean.
I have not gotten past it. They have a brand new playground at Doyle Ryder. Did I have one? No. Did I watch a girl break her leg on one? Yes, I did. So, and that actually ties in really well with the story that I was planning on telling. There was two things that was bouncing around in my mind. First is kind of an offhand joke I made to my dad once when he was talking about Zen. And I said, when you get down to it, they're all Zen jokes. And then the second thing that was bouncing around in my head is I didn't know whether or not I wanted to talk about race in my story. Because it is Black History Month, but every story that I kept coming up with was about how I came into tune with that, and it felt a lot like I was giving permission. And I think people are really tired of people that look like me giving them permission to be black. And so I was like, you know what? I don't need to. They don't need me to tell their story. They can tell their own story. And so I decided to tell a more authentic and Zen story about my relationship with Flint. And so it ties in very well with the playground equipment, because the first stories that I always tell people about Flint are about the physical nature of Flint. And I knew that everybody was going to tell stories about the people of Flint. And so I knew those bases were going to be covered. And so I thought I'd tell a story about the bones of Flint. And so in my old neighborhood, like many neighborhoods in Flint, the sidewalks sucked. And I mean that literally. Like you could see where squares of the sidewalk had sunk into the ground. It meant that any bike a kid had in my neighborhood was a mountain bike. And it meant that shuffling feet tied directly to skinned knees. Going to a friend's house in the suburbs and realizing that sidewalks were supposed to be flat was a revelation to me. It was the first of many times that I would come to realize that the material reality of Flint was one of disrepair. No institution in Flint was free from the steady creep of entropy. I mean, my school was falling apart, and again, I mean that literally. One among many other unique memories Flint has given me is the taste of plaster dust and asbestos, as the ceiling in my homeroom cracked and fell. And when I talk about memories like that with people that aren't from here, they sound like horror stories. I've literally seen old white women go, oh, when I tell that story, which is a thing I really only thought happened in cartoons. And I always have to reassure them, no, he was great. I wouldn't have wanted to go to school anywhere else. When the ceiling fell in on one of my
Sarah, please call 2146. Sarah, please call 2146.
That's on you, Sarah.
Okay, go ahead.
When the ceiling fell in on one of my classmates, he completely deadpan said, man, ain't that some shit? And we went back to work. And maybe it's some weird version of Stockholm Syndrome, but nothing a well-maintained suburb has ever appealed to me. Flint absolutely destroyed any sense of attachment I had to pretty things.
Oh, that's sad.
It made me care about the moments beyond these initial connections of physical attraction. Walking up from my house to the half mile to the corner store was always about the story I could tell myself. And having a busted ass sidewalk meant that those stories were incredible. Each raised corner of an ill-kept square became a mountaintop, and I was a superhero leaping from peak to peak. And there are piles of complaints that I could lay at Flint's feet. I had to move to get access to some very basic human needs. But it will always be the city that gave me mountains. I might have had a shit building to learn in, but I learned to give a shit. I would take its broken glass to any greener grass. Flint made complaint into celebration, and I would not want anything more. Thank you.
Small, not pride. Our next presenter is Verna. Shook down his Verna. Thank you. Flint artist will showcase their pottery at the Greater Flint Art Council in February. Make sure you stop by. Has many stories about Flint, but more importantly, her life stories about determination, resilience, and never giving up. A warm-hearted, beautiful spirit. Absolutely. Yeah.
I hope I don't need the mic. I doubt it. But I want to say good evening.
Talk louder. You need the mic.
Good evening. I am loving all of these stories. They're all building up to what I want to say. And interestingly enough, the sidewalks in Flint are the worst. You're right about that, because just to segue into my story, I'm here to talk about a different form of depression, and that's cancer. I have had 4 bouts with lymphoma, and this last one I am recovering from still, but it was that, let me give you the name of it. It's anaplastic large T-cell lymphoma, ALK negative. I couldn't get the positive, which would have been the easier one. I had to get the negative one. So anyway, that said, I've spent a lot of time in my life being sick. I am from Flint. I was born here in 1964, right downtown. I was born at home because there was the worst snowstorm that year. My parents couldn't get out and nobody could get to us, so my dad delivered me. And he would sometimes look at me and say, "Into these hands." But anyway, back to the sidewalk. At 14, I had my first encounter with cancer, and it was Hodgkin's disease. And it was found because I was always overweight. And my brother told me one day, he was like, "You are gonna lose weight. You are too pretty, and I'm sick of you just sitting around doing nothing." So he made me start running or walking or whatever. I was like, "You run, I'll walk." And so I tried to run, and one night I tripped on the sidewalk, and I fell really hard and I hurt myself. And it was in the fall when school was to start, and I was sick the very first day of school, 8th grade, and I came home from school and I had a really high fever. And my dad looked at me and said, "Well, you are sick." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm eating aspirin like candy." And so he took me to my uncle, who was a doctor. I ended up in the hospital, and several months later they discovered, not here in Flint, but at Children's Hospital in Detroit, that I had Hodgkin's disease. And it was hard for them to discover that because I was 14, black, whatever that means, but it means a lot. And it was just an unusual thing for somebody 14 years old and my color and female to have that disease. It was primarily a white 40-male-year-old disease. So, Dr. Curry, I had her at U of M, and she asked me to speak tonight about cancer. And I was like, well, she asked me to tell my story about cancer. And when I told my daughter about it, I was reluctant because I had something else prepared. And Milo said, "Mom, why? Why don't you want to talk about it?" I said, "Because it's kind of embarrassing, to have cancer 4 times. It makes me feel like sometimes maybe I did something wrong." And anyway, that said, my daughter, because I was having a hard time trying to formulate what I might say, wrote a poem and gave it to me. And it's my words, and it's amazing because she's been there with me the whole time. And my friend Drew supported me too. He came to the hospital at night. I heard him in the hallway one night making a big ruckus and everything, and a nurse came in and said, "There's a guy out there and he's saying your name." And I'm like, "Oh, let him in." Let him in. That's my friend Drew. But I want to thank Flint, the community of Flint, because this is a very loving community. This city sucks in a lot of ways, but the people here are absolutely amazing. And I got a lot. This poem written by my daughter, and it begins with, "I might cry, the tears that lie behind my eyes. I run my hand across my head, pulling away chunks of hair. This image that I see is not the one of me. Poison rushing through my body, killing cells, fighting itself, fighting me, creating weak. This is not who I want to be. I want to be free. Remind myself of me, the me I used to be, before sickness infiltrated. A fight statistically I'm not supposed to beat. Cancer wasn't meant for me, and I don't want your pity. Your words of encouragement are not for me. That's comfort for you. I don't want to be admired for following my instincts to fight, not to lie down. I want to rise, to fly, to soar. For one is not complete without a pair of wings, and wings, they do look good on me.
I second what she said. What's going on in Flint, really, really heartbreaking, but the people are very beautiful. That show tonight, nothing more to be said about that, so beautiful stories. Yes, man. Okay, with that being said, me and Jeff is going on the road with this. Brother, we might take a little mouth.
You gotta take them.
We gotta take him out. Okay.
You've been wrong.
You're in, Mal. Yeah. So definitely, I hope that we do get something out of this, and I do really, really mean that. sincerity. You know, we just take something back. It's an act of kindness for your brother, for your sister. Always remember what this month is about. More importantly, it's year round, it's every day. So just because it's Black History Month today, I mean, we don't celebrate this every day for the rest of our life. Right? Understand? So, in closing, we got our last but not final poet of the night. What more can I say about this brother? I can just go off on a tangent. Right? Tracy try to keep it with these notes. I'm not going. Definitely though, man. Brother, very inspirational brother, man. Bumped into him a while back, doing phenomenal things in our community, working with the youth. Of course, you know, during my hip hop days, we used to kind of bang heads with each other. So, you know, we come up in that era. So, he's a graduate from University of Michigan. Make some noise for that. He worked alongside with Dale Kilby. Make some noise for that. He's always been an active vessel in the community of Flint, right? So if y'all will, y'all welcome me. My brother, my friend, a good member of the society. I can go on and on and on. And welcome Gary Jones. I got more. You know
How's everybody doing? Okay, he did mention that I am a poet, which is true. I do not have any poems prepared tonight. I am sorry. I actually just wanted to come up and just say a couple of words on behalf of my mentor, really like a father figure to me. When I got to the University of Michigan, it was actually because of the Najee. It was because of the Challenge program. So I was one of the students, like around my senior year in high school, just kind of got disengaged from school. I didn't know why I was going to school, why I was showing up. And so my GPA took a dive that was below the criteria for me to get into the U of M. In addition to my ACT score, it was too low as well too. So I was actually accepted on academic probation from a program that was led up by Tendaji Gamgee. So if it wasn't for him, literally I would not be standing in front of you right now, working for our great congressman, doing probably any of the work that I did, because a lot of the stuff I was able to do for the community started just from getting admitted into U of M. Two things that I want to address, and then I'm gonna step to the side because I gotta go pick up my son. Thank you. You reminded me that I gave him some Tylenol yesterday, and I need to go check to make sure that he's doing good. He started sniffling, and as soon as I hear a sniffle, I'm just like, here, orange juice, Tylenol, chicken noodle soup, soda on everything. So, two things I want to address. First thing, everyone say the South. South. Next thing, say my favorite artist. My favorite artist. Third thing, say Miles Davis. Miles Davis. Okay, so we were going to an Undoing Racism conference down in Louisiana, right? And so I was fortunate enough, this is the very first time I'm on a plane. Tendaji was sitting next to me, looking out the window, taps me and say, you see how these irrigation patterns, I'm like a freshman in college, like irrigation patterns, there's no Google for me to go on the plane, like what is he talking about? So he said, these irrigation patterns, the way that the landscape of the South is actually developed, he said you can fly over the western part of Africa and see the exact same pattern. Stuck with me for the entire rest of my life. Actually ended up in a poem that I wrote as well. It actually gave me a sense. This African American boy who wasn't supposed to be at the University of Michigan Flint, it gave me like a centerness, like right in that moment, like I belong here. Now, what was the next thing I said? I told y'all that for a reason. I said the South, and then, okay. See, I always tell people stuff that way I can remember it. Nick, that's how it works. You done fed me a billion lines, so you know. Okay, so my favorite artist. So walking through the hall, see, Tendaji always had like these moments that you never thought would be moments. So I was walking through EOI just like I always used to do. And I was talking about going to this show. I don't even remember the show. I was talking about going to this show. But then all of a sudden he went into Ganji's like guidance mode. And he said, you know, anytime one of your favorite artists or somebody that you love and you want to see perform come to town, like make sure you get there. Because anything else that you're doing that day, you're not going to remember. But if you go to that show, you'll have a story to tell your grandchildren. You probably, did you hear this one? Did he tell you this one? I was like, I was just coming in here to do something else, but that was, I'll take that in my spirit, and that has lived with me also forever, just this brief moment. So I also will encourage you to do the exact same thing. If there's something that's in your heart that you are passionate about, some group, some demonstration, some protest, something, do that. Because you're going to remember that more so if you didn't. Like if you decided to just, you know, kind of stay home, kick your shoes off and watch, I don't watch TV. What do we watch? NCIS. You probably going to forget that episode of NCIS. But if, okay, man, who's popular? God, I feel old. Man, who's popular?
You said Miles Davis.
Miles Davis. Okay, so here's the Miles Davis story, and then I'll sit down because obviously I need to sit down because I can't remember who's popular and what's on TV. So he was telling me a story about Miles Davis.
Right.
Now Miles Davis is someone that I had the kind of blues CD and I used to listen to and vibe out to and everything. But when you hear about people like Miles Davis and Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald, it's Duke Evans. It's like it's back there. Somewhere, yeah, 30 something. but it's like back here somewhere. It's not something that's like accessible to me. I, couldn't get a real sense of it. But he actually told me a story based on him going to see his favorite artist. He was able to tell me a story about Miles Davis, just like right in that moment. And him coming out and playing and the way that the lights was and everything. I still remember it like to this day. So saying all that to say, fly over the South, fly over Africa, but also make sure you follow your passions because they'll be for everlasting memories, and that's what Tendaji has blessed me with. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.